Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make a stunning Valentine's wreath. Don't worry, it's beginner friendly. You'll find the full materials list for you below in the description of this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got new tutorials uploading every week. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. Hey guys, it's Nikki here at Stillwater's Wreath Designs, and I wanted to let you know that the design we are creating today is actually the January Wreath Raffle for Stillwater's. I've actually been doing this for the past year on Facebook, and I've been horrible about sharing it here on YouTube. So I made a promise to myself and to you all to make sure I include those wreath raffles here on YouTube. So if you're interested in participating in the raffle, I'm going to leave information for you below in the description of this tutorial. Okay, let's get back to it. Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make a giant bougie Valentine's door swag. We're going to build today's design on a 28-inch pine swag base. If you're new to pine swag bases, you guys, it basically looks like an upside down Christmas tree. We're going to add a whole roll of 10-inch deco mesh into our base. You guys, I don't measure. So when I cut my deco mesh, all I do is lay that roll in front of me. I pull my arm straight up in the air at approximately the same spot for every cut, and I cut. Most of my pieces are 22 to 26 inches in length. And we're going to cut the entire roll of mesh. What is going on? Where's everyone watching from today? Be sure to say hey below in the comments. Let's speed ahead while I get this entire roll cut. So you can see I've got my pile of deco mesh curls beside me, and all we're going to do is grab a piece of deco mesh. I like to hold it on my chest, and I'm going to roll those two ends in a couple, 2 or 3 times, just to tuck away that raw edge to help reduce the fray. And then I'm just scrunching and gathering in the middle to make a cruffle. And now we're going to add this into our pine base. I typically start in the upper left-hand corner, work my way all the way down to the tip, and then come back up the right-hand side. So I'm going to find 2 neighboring pine ties on the upper left-hand corner, place that cruffle all the way down to the base, and give those ties a couple of tight twists. So it'll look just like that. I'm going to grab another piece of my mesh, roll those ends in a couple of times to tuck away that raw edge, ruffle the center to create my cruffle. I'm going to come immediately below that cruffle we just added onto our base. I'll find 2 neighboring pine ties, place it all the way down to the base between those 2 ties, and give those ties a couple of tight twists. So now we've added 2 cruffles. Let's speed ahead while I continue to add the cruffles into my pine base. Okay, we've got our pine door swag base fully loaded with our cruffles. We used an entire single roll of 10-inch deco mesh, and now it's time to add some embellishments. Let me spin the camera around so you can see exactly what I'm doing. First, we're going to add in our decorative sign. How stinking cute is that, you guys? So I've cut off the hanger that came with the sign, and I've added 2 cable mount brackets. They basically come in a giant bag of 100 or so, and they're super cost effective. I grabbed them from Amazon. I'll make sure I leave a link for that for you below. So I've pressed those down. They've just got some sticky tape on the back, and then I like to add a bead of hot glue right around the perimeter of those brackets, just to make sure that's not going to go anywhere. So we're going to set this off to the side to dry, and while it's drying, we're going to make our bow. I've got 3 different types of wired ribbon that we'll be using for today's bow. I'm just going to grab a good pair of scissors and a pipe cleaner to secure our bow. We're going to start out with this 2.5-inch wide ribbon. I like to make my tails longer than I think I'll need. So just unrolling a good bit of ribbon. I'm going to give myself a pretty long tail. I'm going to pinch in the middle, just like that, to hold our tail. I'm going to give that ribbon a hard twist because we always want that pretty side out on our bows. I'm going to make a single loop. Give that a pinch underneath my thumb. We'll give that ribbon another hard twist. We're going to make a second loop. giving it a pinch underneath my thumb. So my left hand is my holding hand and my right hand is my working hand. I'm going to hold those loops up onto each other to make sure they're approximately the same length, and they are. We're going to cut another long tail. I'm not even measuring, just eyeballing, making that tail a little longer than I anticipate needing. And we've just made the first layer of our bow. Now I want extra ribbon tails with this. So we're on to the next layer. We're going to make a tail approximately the same length. Just giving that a pinch underneath my thumb. We're going to make one single loop that's just a little bit shorter than our previous loop. So making that loop just on one side, pinching that ribbon underneath my thumb, measuring out a long tail about the same length as the previous tails, and cutting that ribbon away. So what we have here are 2 loops on one side and 1 on the other. Trust the process, guys. We're going to move on to our next ribbon. This is 1.5 inch wide ribbon. I'm going to unroll a good bit of it. We want those tails to be about the same length. So we're going to let that ribbon tail drop. I'm going to hold that in my hand. I'm going to give that ribbon a hard twist under my thumb. Our first loop needs to be on the same side where we just have that single loop from earlier. I'm just going to make this a little bit shorter than that previous loop. So you can see it's about 3/4 of an inch shorter. I'm going to give that ribbon a hard twist underneath my thumb. I'm going to make a single loop. Give that a pinch, and we're going to make one more loop. So I'm giving that ribbon a hard twist under my thumb. We're going to make one more loop with this 1.5 inch black and white ribbon. We're going to let that tail run down and cut off our ribbon. So now, as you can see, we've got 2 loops of the 2.5 inch and 1 of the 1.5 inch on one side. And on the other side, we've got 1 loop with that 2.5 inch ribbon and 2 of the 1.5. So we've still got 3 loops on both sides. And now we're going to move on to our last ribbon, which is the 3/4 inch Swiss polka dot. Super stinking cute. And we're going to make 2 loops and 2 tails with this ribbon. So I'm just holding that under my thumb, giving it a hard twist. We're going to make those loops about 1.5 inches shorter than the previous. So it's under my thumb. Trust the process, guys. I know it looks messy. Hard twist. 1 more loop. Make sure they're about the same size, and they are. And cut a long tail. Now we're going to take that pipe cleaner and just wrap that around our bow stack. Right around the middle there. You want to secure that on the back side of your bow. So I'm just going to give that pipe cleaner several tight twists. Just going to make sure all of those tails are pointing downward. It's still messy, guys. That's okay. So just get all those tails. Give them a tug so they're pointing down. And now we can open up our loops. Okay, let's set our bow off to the side and get our sign anchored into our swag. Grab 2 pipe cleaners and marry those ends together. This is going to give you a longer pipe cleaner. Once you get that finished, run it through one of your mounting brackets on the back of your sign and give those pipe cleaners a couple of twists to keep them from sliding around. Repeat that same process for the second bracket. Okay, now it's time to add our sign into the swag base. I'm going to place my sign in the upper third portion of my swag. So I'm going to poke those pipe cleaners right through the swag around on the back side, and I'm going to give those pipe cleaners several tight twists right around the spine of our swag. This is going to keep our sign nice and secure. Then you can take your small snips or scissors and cut away the remaining bits of those pipe cleaners. Then I like to add a dollop of hot glue right over those pipe cleaners to make sure they don't slide. Now that our sign is nice and secure, let's go ahead and add that bow that we made just a few moments ago. Here I'm just making an elongated pipe cleaner to secure our bow down in. I should have done this earlier, guys. So save yourself a step and do this before you secure your bow. So I'm just wrapping that around the center of my bow stack nice and tight, giving it 2 or 3 tight twists. And then we're going to add it into our swag just like we did earlier with our sign. So I'm just going to run those pipe cleaners right down the center and secure it on the back side, right along the spine of our swag. Since our bow doesn't have any weight to it, I don't need to bother with that dollop of glue. Now that our bow is nice and secure, it's going to look a hot mess because we've just squished it. So let's take a couple of minutes and fluff out our loops. So I'm just coming to that back side, opening up those loops. I'm putting the double loops into the X pattern in the single loop, coming right between, just like that. And then we'll take our 3/4 inch loop and run it in the center. So we've got our bow rough fluffed. Now I'm going to angle trim all of my ribbon tails. To angle trim those tails, I'm just going to come down about 3/4 of an inch on the right side and cut up diagonally to the corner. And we'll do this for every single ribbon tail. Once you've got those ribbon tails angle trimmed, I'm going to grab the leftover cardboard insert from that roll of 10-inch deco mesh that we used. I'm going to use this insert to curl our tails. To curl your ribbon tails, guys, you're just going to grab that ribbon and wrap that right around that cardboard insert all the way up to the center of your bow and release. That's going to give you a cute little curl. You can tug on that to relax it or recurl it as many times as you need until your curls are exactly the way you want them. So let's take a couple of minutes and get these tails curled. And now we've just got our 7/8 inch ribbon tails. And for these guys, all I like to do is take those ends, curl them under a couple of times to give them that nice clean finish, like so. And then I just loosely roll it, just to give it a whimsical curl. We'll give our bow a final fluff once we're done designing this beauty. How stinking cute is this swag, you guys? Okay, now that we've got our bow added, let's go ahead and cut some ribbon tails that will sprinkle throughout our swag. So scoot your design off to the side, grab your scissors and your ribbon. So I'm going to cut 4 pieces of our 2.5 inch and 7/8 inch ribbon at 11 inches in length. And I'm going to cut 8 pieces of the black and white ribbon at 11 inches in length. Now that we've got all of our ribbon tails cut, let's bring our swag back into our work area. And we're going to sprinkle the ribbon tails throughout our swag. And so we'll be pairing 2 ribbon tails up together at a time. So I'm going to lay the black and white on top of our Valentine's ribbon. I'm going to fold that ribbon stack in half to find the center. And I'm going to give it a pinch. I'm going to fold that into a loose V over my thumb. And I'm going to come into the side of my swag, find a couple of neighboring pine ties, and twist them around our ribbon. So I'm going to go back and forth between 2 different ribbon combinations. We just added in here the black and white with our Valentine ribbon. And then for the next set, I'm going to do the black and white with the Swiss polka dot. So I've layered one on top of the other, folding that in half to identify the center, giving it a pinch, folding it into a loose V over my thumb, and finding 2 more neighboring pine ties right next to where we just added that previous set. And I'm just fluffing out those tails, giving them a little curve. And as you can see, I'm kind of staggering the height. So I've added the first set lower and the second set higher. I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way around our swag until I've got all of our ribbon tails added in. And then I'll meet you back here. Okay, you guys, we've got all of our ribbon tails added in. The last step of this design process is to add in our florals. I've got a handful of different types here. We'll see what we use. I've got a red and white glittery leaf pick, this super cute pink, red, and white pick. I've got 2 bushes of these Valentine florals, and are you ready for this? A heart pick. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point is trim all of my picks down. I'm going to take my small snips and just trim away all of the stems on my glitter picks. So just like the ribbon tails, I'm going to work my way around the swag, making sure I'm getting different elevations and adding some to the center, and sprinkle those red and white glittery picks in. So to get them added in, guys, I'm just going to run about 1 inch of hot glue right there on that spine. And then I'm going to come into my swag and anchor it in. Just like that. I have a few leftover pieces, so we'll set those off to the side for another project and move on to our next floral embellishment. You guys, when I add my florals in, I love them all, of course, but I usually reserve my favorite floral pieces or embellishments for last so that they're really the focal point of the swag. Now I'm going to trim down my Valentine's floral bush into 3 sections. Make sure you fluff those florals up, really spread them out and bring them to life. They're on a wire spine so you can bend them as you wish. Once that glue dries, we can come back in and really fluff that out. Before you fluff those florals out in your swags, guys, make sure you give that glue time to dry. Now we'll move on to this beauty. And just like we did before, guys, we're just going to find our perfect spot. Remember, we've got 3 of these stems. We're going to nestle them down in and then give them a couple of squirts of hot glue. Just a quick pro tip on your florals and embellishments, make sure when you sprinkle them throughout your design that they're equally weighted. So for instance, here you can see I've got one on the top right, one on the bottom left, and soon I'll place the last piece in the middle. And last, we'll be adding in these cute little heart embellishments. So I'm going to trim them down one by one so that they're individual pieces and sprinkle them throughout our swag. Make sure you leave 1 to 2 inches of stem on those little hearts so that you've got something to add your glue to. So I'm just going to run a bead of hot glue right down that stem and nestle it down into our swag. I do want to make sure I add a heart right in the center of our bow for a nice little pop. And this beauty is finished. What do you think?